Hello YouTube, welcome to the channel Vortigaunt Gaming. Let's run some Mythic Plus dungeons in World of Warcraft. Today we'll be watching back a Neltharion's Lair level 20 that I ran earlier this week as an Arcane Mage. The weekly affixes are Tyrannical, Entangling, and Bursting. If you are into this kind of content, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. So, if you maybe have seen my videos in the past week or two, you may have heard that, well, I've had some issue recording some of my higher level dungeon runs, and one of the main issues was that it was hard for me to concentrate on the run and also give my live commentary as the run was happening. So I've chosen to do things a little bit differently this week. This is a run I ran relatively early in the week, and I'm sitting here recording a commentary after the fact. So, you know, if you think this would be kind of a better setup or a better way of doing things for my videos, let me know in a comment which style you'd rather me do, or if you're okay with both styles. Just you know, if you want to leave an opinion, there's the comment section down below. As for this dungeon, this is well, it is a Tyrannical week, so I feel like there are a lot of bosses in here that have a excuse me, they have some pretty difficult things to deal with. The trash mobs, on the other hand, they're not going to be too much of an issue. They're much more of an issue on Fortified Week, I would say. But yeah, so, I mean, up until the first boss, there's not really too much to worry about here. Just make sure you kill these ads. The only thing I'd really say I'm worrying about here is making sure I have all my cooldowns going into the first boss fight. Since the first boss is the boss that our tank called for hero on, so I will be popping hero on that first boss fight. What I'm looking for here is to make sure that I have Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi, and Arcane Barrage ready to go by the time we actually get into that first boss. I am also using the double hero talent. So when I hit hero, it applies hero to everyone and also applies temporal displacement, which is like the hero debuff that prevents you from using hero for the next 10 minutes. But I'm actually using the talent where I can apply hero to myself even if I do have the temporal displacement debuff. And so hero for me is actually only on a 5-minute cooldown. So I'm going to be looking to pop double hero on pull for this boss fight. Anyway, a couple seconds before the boss fight, I will hit evocation just to get make sure I have all my mana. And here we go into the pull. Start popping all my cooldowns. If you don't know how Arcane Mage is played, there are basically two phases in the rotation. There's the burn phase and the conserve phase. The burn phase is what I'm doing right now. I apply Radiant Spark to my target. I cast 5 spells on the target, one of them being a barrage. And as the barrage travels to the target, I also press Touch of the Magi. The idea is that Radiant Spark and Touch of the Magi both give you burn windows to do as much damage as you can to the boss. And then after the Touch of the Magi drops off of your target, then you go into what's called the conserve phase, which is basically use your spells in such a way that you have a mana for the next burn phase. Now, level 20, you do have to start worrying about like the finer details of the of your rotation, no matter what spec you're playing. But I think even more important here is making sure you do the mechanics of the boss properly, which for this boss, the main mechanic is you want to kill the ads as quickly as you can, since every time the boss hits 100 energy, he's going into his kind of special attack, which is called Shatter. And Shatter does damage based on how much health the ads that are still up have left. And you'll notice that this ad still has, oh, we actually just killed it before Shatter went off, so we actually didn't take extra damage from it. But you may also notice that our warrior's kind of over there near the boss and not able to kind of do the damage to the ads that he needs to be doing. I think that's more of a mistake on my part and also the part of the priest. I think we should be standing more near the boss so that the warrior is more in range and actually there to help us deal damage to the ads and get them down before Shatter occurs. Anyway, I think on the next Shatter, we are going to have an issue with one of the ads still up. I do have an ability called Ice Cold, which I actually activate right before Shatter happens. You know I have low health. I activate my Ice Cold right there, and that way I take reduced damage, and also I heal myself a little bit. I believe the Ice Cold does have a healing mechanism when you activate it. Anyway, this should be... I think we have one more Shatter that happens, and then we should have enough... I think we have enough to burn the boss down before he gets off another Shatter. And that's going to about do it for boss number 1. It's a pretty straightforward boss. It's really, you know, only a DPS check in regards to the ads, but other than that, I would say this is maybe the easiest boss in the dungeon, other than boss number 2. Anyway, that's the first boss down, so I went ahead and gave myself a slash cheer and moved on to the next part of the dungeon.
I hope our allies can keep their main forces occupied long enough for us to complete our mission.
So every boss in this dungeon actually has, they basically use an energy meter. So every boss has an energy meter that ramps up over the course of the boss fight, and then whenever the energy meter hits 100 energy, that boss will do its special attack. So on the next boss, it's going to be... basically, if you've ever played Mario Party on like the Nintendo 64, there's this mini game on it called the Shell game. It's basically like the thing where you like put the, you know, let's say you have like 3 solo cups and you have a ping pong ball, and you put one of the balls in the solo cups, and then you kind of shuffle them around and see whether or not your audience can follow the solo cup or follow the ball, or yeah, follow the solo cup that has the ball in it. Anyway, that's going to be the next boss. The other thing I want to mention is that I did use Hero on the last boss, and you'll notice that my debuff has... It says 7 minutes on my debuff, but technically it's more like a little less than 7 minutes. Because if your debuff says 7 minutes, or I think it says 6 minutes now, then the amount of time you have left on it is actually a little bit less. It's somewhere between 5 and 6 minutes. Because the debuff, the way it displays, it's kind of like a ceiling function, if you know what that is. Anyway, since I am using my personalized hero, I am looking for an opportunity to use it on one of the trash mobs in here, since the trash mobs between boss number 1 and boss number 2 can get kind of difficult. Mainly I'm looking out for these rock-bound pelters. They can be an issue, especially when you have 2 of them in a group like this. So I thought to myself, I'll use personalized hero on myself so I can clear out these rock-bound pelters easily. The other thing I do with this pack is I put a focus on the Might Stone. I think it's called Might Stone Breaker. So that way I know when he's casting Avalanche, so I can sidestep that efficiently. Alright. Another part of my rotation that I forgot to mention is that I do have an ability called Shifting Power, and that reduces the time remaining on my cooldowns. I think you saw me use it before that last pull, so that I could reduce the cooldown of my hero to actually use it for that pull. There's going to be another pull just like the one I just did later in this part of the dungeon, right before boss number 2. And I won't have hero for that, but I will have, I should have all my cooldowns. In fact, the way I'm going to play this next part of the dungeon, I want to make sure that I line up my major cooldowns for that pull with the 2 rockbound pelters that's coming up in a couple minutes. Probably be like 3 minutes from now, 2 or 3 minutes from now, depending on... I actually don't remember how fast we did this part, but yeah, it should be a few minutes from now. The other thing is that with using hero, I don't want to wait too long. The reason I use personalized hero on myself a bit earlier is that you don't want to wait too long to use hero again. Shifting Power does reduce the cooldown a bit, but if you use personalized hero on yourself when you and your group only have maybe 2 or 3 minutes left on the temporal displacement debuff, then there is a chance that you won't have hero up the next time your group needs it. And usually you want to, or usually tanks will kind of plan their run based on you know, when the temporal displacement debuff is going to wear out, or whatever related hero debuff is going to wear out. And you want to try your best to line up your use of hero with kind of your tank's plans on where they want to use hero. Alright. So the other thing is that we had, I think that was the warrior that died there. I think he could have released and actually ran back to us in time. And he didn't have to wait for the res, but it's fine. It only took off maybe like 5 or 10 seconds from the total time. Anyway, over here you'll notice that I do have, I think it's Arcane Surge up. I'm not going to be using it on this pull though. I want to save Arcane Surge for the next pull, since the next pull will have the 2 Rockbound Pelters. This one only has 1, we can kind of deal with that on its own, as long as we focus it down. I do have a lot of self-sustain abilities to get, myself through that. I also have a group sustainability called Mass Barrier. That's a new talent that I've been using in the later half of this season. Alright, so I have a focus on the Mightstone Breaker. We're going to focus the Rockbound Pelter. We're going to actually pop a burn on these guys. And let's go in and, stun them with Dragon's Breath. And you'll notice I did use Mass Barrier and everyone got a barrier right there. That's maybe not wholly necessary, but I don't think there's really a time within the next, 2 minutes where I'm actually going to need Mass Barrier, so I think it's fine that I pop that. It's not too big of a deal. Anyway, we're going into the Tooth boss right now. You'll see that he has an energy meter that's slowly climbing to 100.
It will change nothing.
Those hands, you definitely want to watch out for those. And I don't think I had the ingredients to do the burn on pull, so that's why I waited to pop the burn until after the hands showed up. Either way, you usually have time for maybe 1 or 2 burns on this boss before he hits 100 energy, and that's when he becomes untargetable and goes underground. You also want to take care of those urns so that the ceiling doesn't fall on you, right? Or the roof doesn't fall on your head. Alright, 2 more urns come out after he brings these 2 urns down. He jumps in, and then we start the shell game. Which I don't think I've ever failed at the shell game even once. I mean, I was pretty good at it back in the day. Alright. He's going to be in this urn. It's always helpful to have at least one person watching the shells while you do this part of the dungeon. Or do this part of the boss fight, I should say. Okay, he's broken out, and it's basically rinse and repeat. We won't be using hero here. The tank actually called for hero on the 3rd boss fight, so that's why I'm holding on to it for now. We are going into a burn using Arcane Surge, though. And usually on like a fortified week, you should have enough DPS to kind of burn him down before he does the shell game again. On Tyrannical week, it is a little bit harder, and it does save time if you can burn him down before he jumps into the shell again. Unluckily for us, I don't think we're going to have enough DPS for that. Also, you might see my DPS is a little low on that meter, but you know what, I think that's fine for now. As long as your group isn't dying, and you're doing your rotation properly, you'll definitely have enough time to clear the dungeon. Alright, and this is why you want at least one person to follow the urn, so that not all 5 of you are sitting around looking at and trying to guess which one he's in, like, the other 4 people on the team line. Because on Tyrannical week, those boulders that fall from the roof do a little bit of damage, right? And also, the quicker you burn down the urn, the quicker you can burn down the boss.
Go ahead and run. It will change nothing.
Anyway, this is going to about do it for the Tooth boss in this dungeon.
This is what it feels like.
So we're going to go ahead and give ourselves a slash cheer and move on to the next part of the dungeon. So here, if you want to skip that pack, you have to jump over the rock. Sometimes I miss and I accidentally pull the pack over there. So I figured it would be easier if I, you know, pop my invis and get by without having any issue with that. Right?
Naraxas will feast on your
This is another situation where you do want to burn the ads down pretty quickly, but you also want to kind of time your use of cooldowns so you have your major cooldowns ready for the next boss fight. The next boss fight is a bit difficult. You're going to see us struggle a little bit on it, but I will say I think in this next boss fight I got some of the clutchest heals I've ever received in any Mythic Plus dungeon run ever. And really, there were a lot of clutch moments that kind of saved this next pull on this next boss. Anyway, for these little ads that get spawned on the ground, I think they're called lurkers. I can't really see the name of it that well, but yeah, they cast Metamorphosis. So Dragon's Breath knocks them out of that cast pretty easily, so I like to save my Dragon's Breath for those ads right there.
yes.
And on this next pack, I'm not too worried about using my cooldown on the pack. You'll see that my my cooldowns will actually burn down this pack pretty quickly, as will everyone else, you know, using their abilities on it. I don't necessarily need my main cooldowns on pull for the next boss, since on pull, there are going to be ads that spawn, and we want to deal with the ads first, since if the ads reach the boss will eat them and get a basically a buff, and you do not want to deal with this boss when it's buffed. So it's more important for me to, we're going to pop here on pull, but I'm just going to do some basic damage abilities until the ads come out, deal with the ads, and then I'll use my cooldowns there. Okay. So I'm sticking with Arcane Blast here. You'll see that the Drogbar are about to leap down from the stands. Rancid Maw gets cast on me. The idea is I want to set up Rancid Maw in a position where the Drogbar run into it so that they get slowed down and that we can actually take care of them. And then once these two Drogbars go down, I'll turn to the boss and use my cooldowns. Alright. Another thing to watch out for is Toxic Wretch. That's just dodge the swirlies on the ground. You're also going to see that if you're a tank, you want to be standing in melee range of the boss, since if you're not standing in melee range of the boss is actually going to do group-wide damage. And actually, I think there's a point in this fight where that actually happens, where the tank doesn't get into melee range of the boss in time. You're going to see at least one of those go off, and even one of those happening is going to deal massive amounts of damage to everyone. You'll also see the tank get caught into the boss and devoured by the boss and subsequently die. We res him, and now the warrior's down, so we're down to 2 DPS on this boss. Alright. The other thing is that there are ads in the stands constantly throwing rocks at people, and you don't necessarily know, well, I mean, I don't necessarily know where, who they're going to throw the rocks on. Right, so I think this is it. I'm down at, I think there was, maybe 100 health, and someone healed me back up. I actually thought I was going to die to that, but I'm still not dead, so I figured, I guess this is a good time to go into a burn. He is doing his spiked tongue mechanic. That happens when he hits 100 energy. The other thing is that the Entangling mechanic and the Rancid Maw mechanic, those can overlap, and that's kind of I mean, that's kind of unlucky if they overlap when you're doing the Rancid Maw mechanic. I think one of the ads gets by the Rancid Maw here, actually. Yeah, so they actually both run into the same puddle, but the puddle only takes care of one of them. And so this guy on the left that I'm doing damage to, I maybe should have given up doing damage to him and focused on the other guy, because he's going to get devoured anyway. And you'll notice that now the boss has 2 stacks of that devouring buff, so it does even more damage. And I think it's right here where the tank doesn't get back in time, and so... Okay, no, never mind. I guess that was earlier in the fight. But yeah, now our healer's down, so now we're on a time crunch. We have to get this guy down quickly, and luckily we do, so I give myself a slash here and move on to the next part of the dungeon. Now, I think with all that's happened in the dungeon so far, the one thing that kind of really wasted time, or... yeah, wasted our time here, is actually the priest forgetting to res everyone at the top of that tunnel that we just jumped through. And so now the tank and the healer have to run all the way back, and it takes at least a minute to do so. But if you wanted a good representation of why dying is actually really bad in Mythic Plus, it's not necessarily because of the 5-second penalty that they take off the timer for every death. It's the fact that sometimes you have to run back a pretty long way, and that wastes like a good minute or two. Sometimes in places like Halls of Atonement, it wastes even more time, like 3 or 4 minutes. It basically kills a key. Now, if you see the amount of time left on this video, you might notice that, well, it doesn't kill our key. We're gonna pass this key pretty easily, but there are still some a bit of trouble points coming up in this last part of the dungeon to watch out for. So for this pull, again, there's a Mightstone Breaker. I put a focus on him so I know when Avalanche is coming, and then we focus down the Colossus right here. And once the Colossus is down, we can go back to the Breaker and sidestep Avalanche whenever it comes out. Right. I haven't been talking too much about the bursting mechanic since we haven't really been pulling like big packs the whole time. So the bursting mechanic doesn't really affect us too much, right? But I will say one way it does affect you is that if you died and got revived and you haven't reapplied, let's say, your food buff, and then after defeating a pack you want to reapply your food buff, well, actually the bursting the bursting effect is actually going to knock you out of the eating animation, so you're going to have to wait until the bursting effect drops off for you to reapply the buff. Now, I think this is a bit of an unlucky timing. I maybe could have been faster with like moving into the group and hitting a Dragon's Breath to kind of stun these two enemies. And I think the Rockbound Pelter casted Bound, so I could have interrupted it. But you'll notice I'm going to click recap here in a second, I think, and it's going to show that I actually got hit by one of the attacks from the guy on the Scorpion as well, and that kind of also added to the damage from Jagged Disc. What's that called? Crystal Spike? Yeah. So I got hit by both of those at the same time, basically chunked me down and killed me right there. It's no use releasing here since it's gonna... They're gonna kill these guys before I have time to walk all the way back from the spawn point. The spawn point, as of now, as of killing the Tooth boss, the spawn point changes to, well, that boss room that you killed the Tooth boss in, right? So we're gonna go ahead and get rest here. I'm actually going to try to eat. And you know, a lot of the times it's not a big deal if they start a pull while you're trying to eat, but here I got unlucky and someone aggroed me into combat right as the eating buff said 10 seconds. and so I didn't actually get the stamina increase, or the stat increase. I don't think it's... I think my food actually adds critical strike. But yeah, I didn't get the stat increase from eating because I got knocked out like a couple milliseconds early. I'm also going to try to eat again after killing this guy on the Scorpion. But again, I'm going to eat too early, and you'll actually see that the bursting mechanic actually knocks me out of the eating animation. So I have to wait a little bit. I type in mana because I want an excuse to be able to eat and reapply my buffs, but also because eating actually gives me mana. So there we go. We're going to go into the fourth and last boss of the dungeon. You'll notice that I didn't use Hero since the third boss, since I wanted to save my Hero for the fourth boss, and I didn't see any point in time where using the Hero would actually like make a big deal in these trash pools down here. The trash pools between the third and the fourth boss aren't really like lust-worthy, I should say. Anyway, you'll notice that I held off on my cooldowns until the ad came up, and that's well, I did that since getting the ad down during a Tyrannical week is the main priority, and if you don't kill the ad in a good amount of time, it will start doing group-wide damage, and that could easily wipe the group and cause a wipe on this boss. So I wanted to make sure that ad went down as soon as I could get it to go down, and so that's why I saved my cooldowns for the ad. Now, one of the things for saving the cooldowns on that ad is that my DPS looks like it's lacking there a little bit, and that's simply because most of my DPS as an Arcane Mage comes in 2 bursts during that burn phase, specifically when the Radiant Spark effect leaves the target, and when the Touch of the Magi effect leaves the target. They do a lot of burst damage to the target in that point. You also may have noticed that, a couple, like 15-20 seconds ago when we were doing the Magma Wave mechanic, that's the mechanic that happens at 100 energy with this boss fight. I actually hit Alter Time. I blinked away from the spikes on the ground to break the vine, and then I hit Alter Time again to teleport myself back behind the spikes so I wouldn't get hit by Magma Wave. So that's something you can do in case you ever get into a position where you're stuck in entangling vines like this and you don't have enough time to break the vines and then get back into position to avoid the Magma Wave. And that's a way to do it very quickly without putting yourself at risk for Magma Wave. So finally, Lust, the Lust debuff has gone down. We've hit Lust. I'm going into my burn, and then I blink right into a landslide and get one-shotted. So it was a bit unlucky on that part. I think I was trying to dodge the crystal spikes and set myself up into a better position, and then I just didn't see where my tank was standing, and I blinked right into danger, and got myself killed. Luckily, I think the lust buff is still on the rest of my team, so they're able to deal with this ad pretty quickly. And they'll actually have enough DPS to kill the boss before the next ad comes out. That being said, looking at the amount of damage that the priest and the warrior are doing, they most likely had enough damage to deal with the next ad if it did come out before killing the boss. But you're going to see that they're going to be able to kill the boss before the next ad even spawns. The mountain will gnaw on your bones. The other thing is you'll notice that the priest, even though they're ranged, he is standing near everyone else in the group to make sure that those crystal spikes spawn near the boss, which makes the fight easier. And that's going to do it for Neltharions that are level 20. I'm going to get rezzed here really quick, and after I get rezzed, I'm going to go ahead and slash cheer because we beat the dungeon. Thank everyone for a fairly clean run, and even congratulate them for beating the timer.
It's done, heroes. With Dargrul dead and the hammer reclaimed, the Drogbar are broken.
And of course, we are an Arcane Mage, so the common courtesy is to give everyone a portal back to the main hub of the expansion. And that's going to about do it for this video, so if you liked what you saw here, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to see me run any other dungeons during Dragonflight Mythic Plus Season 2, let me know in a comment down below which dungeon you'd like to see me run. Hopefully I can get around to posting a VOD of that. Anyway, that's going to about do it for me here, so I hope you all had fun watching, and I will see you all later.